I'm going to start off by just doing a quick intro, one of myself, because some of you, even though you work out at A3, probably don't know much about me either, which is perfectly fine. So Ryan Beckwith, owner of A3. Quick background, as I grew up in the military, so I've moved around just about everywhere you can imagine inside the United States. By the time I was in high school, I'd gone to 8 schools already by the time I entered high school. So it was very much a sports dominated childhood for me that kept me going. And one of the reasons that A3 has become such a big part of me and why I wanted to start it was, had it not been for athletics, I probably wouldn't have been where I am. So there's that. I was a 2-sport athlete in college. I did both football and track in college. I was a sprinter in track, played wide receiver, kick return, punt return. And from there, I coached at the University of Georgia in strength and conditioning. I coached at UCLA strength and conditioning and moved around a little bit, but I was also a professional decathlete in track and field. No, not bicycle and swimming, but a little bit of everything else. And was training for the 2012 Olympics. And that was my background. And I won't bore you with the career side of it of how I got to A3, but that's my background as an athlete, both collegiately and professionally. So there's that. I'm going to move on to Art, let him give a brief description of who he is, homegrown in Bakersfield. So go ahead, Art.
Yep. As Ryan said, I'm here from Bakersfield, California as well. I went to Ridgeview High School. I played basketball and baseball there. I was pretty successful at them both, but I just had more of a passion for baseball. I actually ended up getting drafted out of high school as well by the Baltimore Orioles. At that time, I decided to not go at that time and pursue my professional career. So I went to BC, Bakersfield College, and I had gotten drafted again, actually, from BC by the Royals, the Kansas City Royals. Also, I decided it wasn't my time then as well. And then I went back, I put in the work, put in the effort, and got drafted higher. And that was by the Toronto Blue Jays in 2010. I decided, it was time for me to start my professional career. And I've been playing professional ever since. I've been with the Blue Jays, I've been with the Phillies, and I've been with the Brewers. I got to AA with those teams. And right now I'm currently playing in Mexico. And I've had some pursuit of going out there, pursuit to go to Japan and playing. I was actually supposed to go to Japan, but due to all the coronavirus and all the stuff going on, it was one of those things where I had to make a decision for me. Obviously career, and then you have life, and this life, without life, you have no career. So I decided, I don't want to risk this coronavirus outbreak and get stuck over there and get sick or something bad happening. I've been working out at A3s for most of my professional career as well. Ryan has talked about his background and the kind of mindset that he has as an athlete, the stuff he's went through, and it's definitely helped me progress throughout my career. And I definitely give it up to you, Ryan, for helping me on that end of it as well. But that's who I am. I'm Art Charles, professional baseball player from Bakersfield. Thank you for your time.
Right on. Appreciate it, Art. Justin, I'm going to move on to you.
So what's up, guys? My name is Justin Kelly. Same as Art, Bakersfield born. Went to Stockdale High School and then went to Bakersfield College, played there for a couple years. That's where I met Ryan. He would kind of kick our butt 5 a.m. in the morning for a while. So, I started believing and trusting what he had to bring to the table. And then after that, I took a scholarship and played at Virginia Tech for a year. Had a good time, but unfortunately, the way it went, I was able to transfer to Santa Barbara because of, college experience, the college recruiting. It's a long story, but having some failure and dealing with some failure there, I was able to keep it going. Blessed to play at UC Santa Barbara for a couple years. In my second year there, my senior year, we were able to go to the College World Series, and we won a couple games in there and got like third place. So it was pretty cool, and was able to continue that after graduating to get drafted by the Angels. Played there 2016 and 2017, and in a whirlwind kind of year, I was getting traded to the Braves, and spent a couple years with them as well. So AA, have a little bit of AAA time, and had some good experiences through all that. And then last year I was released by the Braves and played out in Mexico with Art. And thanks kind of to Art having a guide on me of changing playing out there. It was a tough adjustment, but I got used to it, and Luckily, we won a Mexican League championship last year, and I thought it was kind of going to end there, but I was able to play for the Mexican national team for Olympic qualifying events, and the same with everyone here. We're not playing right now. There's no season. There's a lot up in the air, so there's a lot to train for, and just hoping that we can help guys along the way as well. So
awesome. Thank you, Justin. Logan, I'm gonna move on.
All right, what's up, guys? My name's Logan Kilgore. Appreciate you joining. I'm a little bit different than these guys. I was actually born up in Sacramento, a little east of Sacramento, a town called Rockland, and spent all my childhood through high school up in the Sacramento area, and came down to Bakersfield. And played at Bakersfield College here for 1 year, and planned on never coming back to Bakersfield and head out to. I went to Middle Tennessee for college, but met a girl here from Bakersfield that's now my wife. So it's been I think 13 years now that I've been coming back to Bakersfield every off season and spending a lot of time here. So that's kind of where my path crossed with Ryan and in A3, and been blessed to be able to train there for the past almost 8 years. Just as far as from the old facility to the new facility, so grew up playing basketball, baseball, and football. We were a basketball family. My sister was a college basketball player. My dad was a longtime basketball coach, and I felt like I was probably going to go to the NBA. Realized that was quickly not the case about junior high school, so really stuck to football and baseball throughout high school. We'll get into later on, probably not in this talk, but maybe further on down the line. Ryan knows, and these guys kind of know my story, but probably one of the more unique stories considering, heading into my 7th year as a pro now playing quarterback. Did not start one high school game as a quarterback. I was a backup quarterback in high school, and ended up coming down to Bakersfield Junior College because I needed film. And when we talk about chasing your dreams, chasing things that you believe, sometimes maybe it's your closest inner circle. Sometimes you're the only believer in yourself, and I think that, as we progress in these talks, we'll be able to talk about, each of our individual journeys. But I think that there's a lot to share there just because typically you see with the NFL draft going on right now, most of these kids were high-level high school prospects, college prospects, that type of thing. But, everybody has a different path. And it led me to Middle Tennessee to play my last 3 years there. Played for the New Orleans Saints, and I've played the last 6 years up in Canada for the Toronto Argonauts, Hamilton Tiger Cats, and now the Edmonton Eskimos. So excited to be a part of the panel, and look forward to finishing these talks and getting a little deeper into each of our journeys.
Awesome. Thanks, Logan. Manav, let's move on to you.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Manav Shah. I was born in Bakersfield, professional golfer. Went to Centennial High School. From there, I played my collegiate golf at UCLA. Turned pro in 2015, and as soon as I turned pro, my first event, I broke a bone in my left wrist. So that's kind of when I got in touch with Ryan. I just got surgery. Met Ryan at A3, and we put together a plan, to rehab and make sure injuries like that never happen to me again. And so far, we've been blessed to not have any more. I spent my first 2 years playing on PGA Tour Canada, and then transitioned into playing on the PGA Latino America Tour. Both were great experiences. You see a lot of different culture out there. I played events on the Corn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour. And just like these guys, we're not able to compete right now. So just trying to find ways to stay competitive, stay fresh, stay sharp, and be ready for when that time comes back again.
Right on. Anthony, hop on in.
Orange. Hey, professional football player. I was born here in Bakersfield, went to West High, 3-sport athlete, basketball, track, football. Football ended up taking me to college, got a football scholarship to go to Fresno State. Went there, played as a true freshman, sophomore year. I was All-American, was getting some looks at the NFL, stayed 2 more years. Didn't get drafted, went undrafted to the Cardinals, spent 2 seasons there. My first season didn't really play that much. Second season, I was a starter. Got traded to Minnesota, spent another 2 years there, got hurt, ended up in Seattle. Played a year there, got hurt there. That's when I made my transition to the CFL. Played for the Argonauts the first year. That's when I met Logan. Came back home to look for places to train. Ended up coming across Ryan at A3. Been training there ever since. These last 5 years I've been in Canada. I played for Toronto, Ottawa, Sask, BC. 2018 I was an all-star in the CFL. This past year I was in Edmonton again with Logan, and you know, I'm the same as everybody else, man, looking for ways to stay motivated and stay on top of my training and everything else. So when things start get rolling again, you know, we're ready to go.
Cool. Well, what I'd like to do is get started with this whole conversation and really touch base on everything that we've been talking about here. And like they all just talked about, you know, a lot of people are without jobs, without seasons, without teammates, without coaches, without anything, you know, as far as the motivation is concerned and what is keeping people motivated. And, you know, ultimately, you know, like Art touched on earlier, because Art's going to go into this first part of it. You know, Art had a possibility of moving out to the major leagues in Japan, which is, for anybody who's familiar with baseball, is a very, very big deal, especially financially. It's a really, really big step up. And, you know, that got cut short and it didn't happen this year because of the coronavirus and everything that's going on with travel. And man, thank God Art didn't go out there early and end up, you know, getting either stuck there or getting sick. So we're lucky to have him here. But Art, what I wanted to talk about is, you know, through all this and through the season being canceled and not really knowing what's going to happen, you know, what are you doing right now on your own to stay motivated and at the risk of even maybe we don't know if there's going to be a season next year. You know, we just don't know what's going on as far as crowds and social distancing and all that. So what are you doing right now personally to, you know, try to stay on top of things, make sure you're ready for when this thing gets lifted?
The biggest thing I think right now is just you kind of got to get creative during this time. You know, you can't do your normal drills that you have. I mean, obviously, I have a batting cage. You can kind of see it in the backyard right here. I'm in the backyard sitting here. I wanted some sunshine today, but I have little brothers. Excuse me. I have little brothers that I kind of bring out here sometimes, or they drag me out sometimes as well. Do some drill work. Like I said, you got to get creative sometimes. Like we don't have the ability to go out and use certain things that we use normally, a baseball field, you know, a cage inside with turf whenever it's not, you know, raining outside. We went through that spell where we had a lot of rain. So what I've done is I mean, we have a ping pong table. I've done things to where I get a ping pong ball or the little paddle, and I use my glove hand and I just hit the ball and I just scooped it with my glove hand. I did little drills like that, forehands, backhands, you know, just practicing picks, getting a tennis ball, getting a glove, inside the house, outside the house, throwing the ball up against like a little wall. Obviously trying not to make too much noise inside. I got a new baby niece. So if it becomes too much distraction, I just go in the garage or something, you know, and just do some drills with my glove, get some glove work in. The one that's a little bit more difficult is footwork, but we do have tiles. So I guess we kind of sometimes use that as a ladder to kind of go in and out of and do some little drills. But it's just creativity during this time. It just demands more creativity and demands for you to use your noodle a little bit to try to figure out ways that you can progress and get better, you know, and that's one of the biggest things that I've done. And just mentality, you know, telling yourself every day that there's a reason why you're doing this, and telling yourself every day that, you know what, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It may be dark right now, but you just continue to work, continue to get your drill work in, and you prepare yourself for what may happen. Like you said, we don't know if the season is going to start. I've heard many different things about baseball as far as, oh, it's going to start this time, that time, the other. You know, and I know it's not starting in May now just because that's something that was already confirmed. So tomorrow's not promised as far as when we'll play. We may, like you said, we may have to play next year, but this just gives us more time in that sense to prepare our minds, to be strong mentally and our bodies to be strong physically, to go out there and, you know, produce and put up good numbers.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's a great point, you know, being creative and finding ways to keep it going. It's like we talk about in training all the time, right? Of, you know, being in your kitchen using tile or using a ping pong table against a wall. I mean, that's never going to happen out in the field, right? You're not using a ping pong paddle. You're not using that small of a ball. You're not using tile to move back and forth. But the whole point is the visualization of what's happening, right? And that's just like what we talk about when we're working out, when we're inside of A3 and we're doing the things that we're supposed to do. Even when you're out playing and you and I are talking through video chat and talking about different mechanics, you know, really what it comes down to in the working out aspect of it is, if you can constantly take your brain and put your visualization hat on, and no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, if you visualize being on the court or on the field or on the track or wherever, in the pool, whatever, if you can visualize that every single rep that you take, well, you still got reps. And that's the whole point, right? Is that when stress induces itself into us in competition, we're going to resort back to the way we trained our brains. And so even if I'm in my kitchen doing footwork on the tile, which is a great one, Art, thank you for that. You know, you're going to resort back to that movement pattern that you created there. And were you able to visualize being on the field and fielding a ball at that point? And absolutely, yes. The answer is yes, 100% you can. And so we got to take it outside of the idea of always being so literal about the idea of having to be on the field, having to be in the cage, having to be on the court, having to be in the pool, because visualization and the power of the brain is a lot more powerful than we think. And so it's a really good point, Art, and it's something that, you know, really needs to be focused on in this time for sure. So thank you. With the risk of next season and everything that's going on, I'm going to point to Logan on this one. You know, out of all of us here, Logan's very, very strong mentally. And like he was talking about earlier, you know, as far as, you know, his personal story of battling through people saying that he wasn't going to make it, wasn't going to do it, so on and so forth. And then he got to put on a Saints helmet. Then he got to go up to the CFL and play for 6 years. I mean, it's just an incredible story. And, you know, to be great, you got to be different. That's ultimately the bottom line. And you can't think like everybody else thinks. There's got to be something intrinsically about you that makes you want to push. And that's why I want to talk to Logan about this. When we're not sure what's going to happen and we don't know what's going to happen next season, we don't know really what's going to happen at all. You know, how do you control your mindset? What is your mindset right now? Because prior to, like you said, I mean, it was, hey, I'm going to, you know, I have an opportunity to go play in college. Hey, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity to go play pro. I wasn't, you know, there's just so many factors and you always fought through those factors. And now it's this unknown factor of, you know, before it was like, hey, if I work my tail off, then I'm going to get a contract with the Saints, or I'm going to get a contract with the Eskimos, or whatever. But now we don't know. And so what are you doing from the mindset aspect of everything that's happening right now to keep yourself motivated, to keep yourself going? And what's something that you can share with us to help us in our everyday struggle to keep it going?
Yeah, no, you brought up a lot of good points. I'll try to kind of hone in on some things. But, you know, first off, I think that, you know, we've got a lot of young athletes on the call right now. And, you know, I will share what I am doing for myself. But also, I think all you young athletes need to think about, you know, at the very nuts and bolts, when you break everything down, right? So when you hear Art talking about, you know, just with a ping pong ball and a glove, okay, yes, in a real baseball game, nobody's going to hit a ping pong ball to him into his glove, correct? Yes. But what he's doing is he's breaking down his sport into functional little subsets where you are trying to get better at one thing. And when you're young, just going into A3 to see Ryan, he might be able to improve you 7 to 10% just from moving more efficiently and things like that. But as you get older like us, you're trying to find something to get better at all the time. Because if you just add up little 1% improvements, then ultimately you might come back 10% better next year, that sort of thing. So for me, when you talk about the mental part of it and your mindset, I correlate mindset and motivation together, because you have to first find out what motivates you. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you're trying to make the high school freshman baseball team, that's what's motivating you right now, because you're in 8th grade, they cancel your season, and you're trying to make that freshman baseball team. Or you want to be a pro one day or whatever. Those are your goals, and you bring everything from a huge, I want to be the best baseball player ever, the best quarterback ever, and then now let's get down to the steps to where you currently are and how to improve. And so for me, you know, my mindset has always been I'm going to capitalize on God-given strengths and turn those into, you know, things that can basically make me money. I love the game of football. I think that as you become a professional, you will notice that you hear guys say, you know, it's a business. You know, it's very easy to sort out people that were given things in life, and then people that have had to earn things in life. And as a young athlete, I think it's very important you look at a positive in every situation. Okay, you strike out to a certain pitch, you throw an interception on a certain play, you learn things from it, and then you try to grow from it. So if I was a young athlete right now and my school season just got canceled, I would take that as the biggest opportunity for me to separate myself from the people that are only waiting. If you only get better at practice with your team on a baseball field, on a football field, especially, because it's very difficult to practice the game of football, right? If I'm a quarterback, it's hard for me to throw it and then run and catch it without the ball hitting the ground. It's very difficult. And at the end of the day, you need certain areas to perform your craft. But if all your teammates, if all the people you're competing against in your local leagues right now do not have a league, don't have anywhere to go practice, don't have anywhere to go improve, your mindset needs to be, what a great opportunity for me to start to separate myself or to try and gain somebody that was better than me. You know, at being a backup in high school, I had to strive to improve in order to get to where I needed to be to get on the football field. And so, you know, there's obviously a lot of unknowns, and as you get older, I don't know if that just messed up the call there. Did that mess up?
Let me hear you.
Okay.
Good, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, I don't, you know, there's certain things that are going to happen. You know, obviously in our lifetime, we haven't seen, you know, seasons get canceled and entire cities get shut down and things like that. But just like Art's doing, you know, your mindset needs to be to take every negative and turn it into a positive. Find out what motivates you, be able to have goals, both, you know, future and present. And I'm excited, as we were talking about the outline of this Inner Circle program, to be able to kind of give broad strokes right now and kind of, you know, get to know some of the people. And as we, you know, get deeper into these layers of these talks, you know, talk about goal setting, talk about, you know, different ways to train your mind, both with your physical movements, but also your mental approach. Because, you know, if you think, you know, losing, or, you know, my dad, who's a longtime coach, you know, when we were young, he never said, the scoreboard never dictated whether we won or lost. You know, we beat bad teams. Doesn't mean that we achieved what we needed to achieve or we improved. And there's times we got the crap beat out of us, you know, bottom line. And when that happened, okay, wow, look at what we can strive to be. You know what I mean? And so you try to take all these situations and make a positive spin on it. And I think this is a great opportunity, like I said, for all the young kids in town to take advantage of. You know, we didn't have online platforms like this. I never was able to talk to professional athletes. I was never able to, you know, if I was a young golfer, have, you know, one of the best golfers that come through Bakersfield in the last 30 years sitting right here on this call and about to talk about his journey. I mean, there's different things that you can take advantage of. And I applaud you for being on this phone call. But take this information that we're giving you and try and relate it to your sport and your situation, whatever age group that might be. It's
a great answer, Logan. And yeah, I want to kind of piggyback on that, you know, the whole, you know, the fact that there wasn't a platform like this where you could get insight and actually have the ability to talk to a pro or talk to somebody who's been through it, or, you know, even, you know, you have dreams of being a professional or even a collegiate athlete or even a varsity athlete, and, you know, not having that opportunity to have people at your fingertips that you could just talk to. And again, one of the main reasons that, you know, I started A3 and have been lucky enough to work with all of you guys, because, you know, when I was coming through as a pro, I didn't have anything. Like I literally, I had a coach and that was it, you know, and I got lucky that I found the coach. A lot of times I was doing stuff on my own and driving myself to places and trying to figure stuff out and so on and so forth. And even as a young athlete, I mean, A3 places like A3 didn't exist. And even if they did, I would have never been able to go. You know, I would have cleaned the floor if you would have let me be in there. And, you know, every second of every day, and you know, if I ever got my parents on one of these calls, they tell you I was never home, ever. I showed up for dinner. I did my homework. I went to bed. That was it. That's the only time they saw me, was to eat and then probably do homework. And then I was outside trying to work out and get better. And that's just me. So again, I do want to commend all of you that are on this call. It's great to see all these young athletes on the call wanting to just absorb some stuff and hear what other people are doing and what the pros are doing, because, you know, there's nothing like learning from somebody who's already been there and somebody who's gone through the journey and the struggle. And, you know, anyone that says they've gotten there alone, they're not telling the truth. And, you know, having people around that have done it, that can help guide you, and people like these guys here that are selfless enough to be on a call like this and talk you through it. I mean, it's a blessing, man. It's really, really cool. It's heartwarming to be on this call right now with all you guys. And speaking of the mindset thing, I want to move on to self-talk and positive self-talk, which we're going to go to Justin Kelly on this one. You know, just like when we're working out, if we're working on a false step drill, right? And we're working on not taking a step backwards, and where our first step has to be forward. And, you know, the mental side of it, a lot of times we'll say, well, don't step backwards, don't step backwards, don't step backwards. And that's what we're saying to ourselves. Well, again, we got to remember that the brain doesn't speak language, it speaks symbols. And so when I self-talk to myself, I'm going to visualize whatever I just said. So if I said, don't step backwards, if I'm sitting at the free throw line and I say, don't miss right, or I'm about to throw the discus, I'm like, oh my gosh, don't foul on this last throw, don't foul. I am going to visualize myself doing whatever I just said. And so that's the whole thing that we've got to think about. And Justin we've talked about this a lot. I mean, he's a pro pitcher. I mean, there's not many more places in the world, maybe outside of what Manav's doing, or even sometimes what Anthony's doing, playing out on the boundary as a corner. You know, you're alone out there, and you've got to talk to yourself because no one else is talking to you. And so when it comes down to situations, what are you doing to prepare your mind for that next pitch, that next putt, that next play? What are you doing? So from a self-talking perspective, Justin, when everything's going on right now, you know, when you're in your alone time, and we've talked about this a couple times about just getting in the car and going somewhere to listen to a podcast to refresh your brain, you know, what are you doing from a self-talk? You know, when you're alone with your thoughts, what are you doing right now to prepare yourself with all this going on?
I think there's a lot of layers to self-talk with what we're dealing with right now with the coronavirus. I think first off, a lot of these kids are getting a really good chance to understand, like all of us, at the end of the day, our best coach is ourselves. Everyone knows that you're having a kid and you raise them to be taught to follow their coaches, and that's what you should do. But when you get to 25, 26 and your mid-20s, you know that everything, you are responsible for the success you have. So self-talk, kind of diving back into that, I have a checklist. I got to get mobility done. Let's say pitching is a little more day to day. So if I bullpen on a Sunday, that means Tuesday I'm going to be light, and then Wednesday I'll do long toss. So trying to stay schedule oriented, because self-talk is helping me reap some of the benefits we're dealing with right now. No one knows when we're playing. No one has any idea. So football, basketball, golf, we're all in an off season. It's very easy to get complacent. So I try to get the same work in, like Art says, with the creativity with this ping pong. I have 2 hammock straps hooked up to my trees out there. Luckily, I have a good tree set up, and I put a mattress back there with a nylon net. So like you said, with self-talk, I'm able to say, all right, on my step back drills, I have to load my hip and go. And I still have a spot on the wall I want to hit. And if I'm not hitting it, whether it's a plyo ball, like the 7-ounce ball, the 2-pound ball, where you're doing all this stuff you would do in season to get ready, because me and Art were 2 weeks away. Art, we were about 2 weeks away from season, right? We were pretty close.
Yeah,
And
2 weeks away.
so when we know we got to go back, we got to be ready. I got to be back to face Art. That's what I'm saying. I got to be ready to face Art. So when it comes down to training, you have to be able to compartmentalize knowing what you're working on at that time. But then when you get into performance, which none of us are in right now, but we want to reap those benefits when we are in performance, you know your self-talk when you're playing is different, because your self-talk, you're not thinking as much about mechanics. You may be cognizant of it, you're understanding it, but you have to know the reports of hitters. Lefty, okay, I got to start him off the slider, bust him in. Righty, soft away. Like, you get back into the nuts and bolts of what pitching is, what golfing is, what hitting is, everything. You get to the film and the details of it. You need that self-talk to really get you that energy, because when you're doing it every day, it becomes a grind and a very tasking thing to go through, whether you like to or not. You love playing baseball, but when you play baseball every day, not every pitch I'm going to throw is going to be 100%. I'm not going to feel great every day. So self-talk helps you get through some of those seasons, those days in August where, you know, you got 2 weeks till playoffs. You got to really finish strong. You guys are still fighting for a position. And right now, everyone's window to perform has gotten smaller. So when we come back, I think self-talk is a way to where I tell my wife, I say, hey, I'm working out this morning just so she holds me accountable. Even that, like being able to believe what you're doing, make a plan, and using self-talk to keep yourself accountable, because you're really the only one keeping yourself accountable right now. No matter what the videos we do and we post in the content, you are holding yourself accountable. So you can't cheat your own work, and it's been helping me for sure, especially in this time and kind of the off season as well.
And I want to take what you're saying and add in what Logan said too, that, you know, I mean, from a self-talk standpoint, it's so important to learn how to talk to yourself, how to be positive. And going back to what Logan said, excuse me, about right now, you have an opportunity to learn how to be positive to yourself and no longer be to the point of, gosh, I missed that throw, or God, I just fouled, gosh darn it. Like, that's the kind of stuff we got to let go of. And we typically don't get the opportunity to do this. We typically don't get an opportunity where we can stop and not worry about the performance or the next play or the next throw or the next race or whatever. We have an opportunity right now to really change not only our mindset, but the way we talk to ourselves. And that's a really big deal, because it takes a lot of practice. And these guys will tell you, I didn't learn that until I was probably 28, maybe 27, where I finally was able to tap in to stop being so hard on myself. Because when that happened and I went negative, or I got upset with myself about being a perfectionist, all it did was make me worse the rest of the day. And so it takes time, and it takes calm, and it takes manner to get you to that point where you can learn that you are the only one that can be positive to yourself. You can have a coach ream you, you can have a coach be really positive with you, but ultimately what it comes down to is, how are you interpreting what that coach is saying? And the only way to make sure that you're interpreting it to benefit you, to get a good result, is that you've got to be positive with yourself, period, end of story. And so both Justin and Logan touching on that is huge, because I mean, again, it's such a hard thing to learn, and we don't learn it as youngsters, because again, it goes back to what Justin was saying originally and Logan about, you know, you get taught to listen to your coaches, right? And what we don't do is we don't learn to take it in and how to distribute the information and how to process information and all that. We typically don't learn that until we become pros, because when we become pros, now we're dealing with people that have been pros, and then they teach us those things. And so, you know, we learn it too late. And that's, again, the benefit of what we're trying to do and pay it forward here, is we want you to know that now, that yes, you're going to get yelled at as an athlete. It's going to happen. Yes, you know, even in your working scenario, if some of you that are adults and you're working right now, you're going to have a boss or a coworker that's going to just not be in the best place mentally. And again, what we got to remember is they're not us. We don't know what happened to them that morning. We don't know what happened to them the night before, what they're struggling with at home. So we can't take things personally. That's ultimately what it comes down to. We've got to stay on top of ourselves, and we've got to stay positive intrinsically all the time. And that's a hard thing to learn. And right now is a great opportunity for that. So I want to move on now.
Ryan, can I add something real quick to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Logan, please do.
Just all I want to say is I think that, you know, there's a saying that obviously I'm sure everybody, even young athletes, have heard of, and control what you can control. And when you hear control what you can control, whether you've heard it a million times or, you know, maybe that's the first time one of you's ever heard that saying, I'm sure every single one of these guys that are on here with us right now in professional sports, and I wish I'd have known that saying when I was 7 years old, because if you just control what you can control, you can cut out 40% of the stuff that you're worrying about all the time. You're worrying about this other kid. You're worrying about what your coach thinks. You're worrying about what teacher, you know, is going to give you on the control what you can control, instead of worrying about why I'm not batting third in the lineup and why I'm batting sixth. Control what you can control. Hit more balls off a tee. Why am I not starting in high school? Well, control what I can control. Work every single day as if you are the starter. Take every advantage you can on scout team to try and prove yourself. Get yourself ready for your goals that are down the road. So I think as you're talking about positive self-talk, also remember to just focus on the things that are within your own personal control. Don't worry about all the extra stuff, because if you can cut all that out, you'll be amazed at how much more efficient. I don't want to take up too much time, but just that when you were talking, that saying just kind of jumped in my head there. I just wanted to, insert that real quick.
Great follow-up.
Real quick. I know Artist seen a lonely pitcher on the mound when he doesn't have his good stuff that day. Self-talk will get you through the inning. Self-talk will get you through and you don't have your best stuff. So if you can tell him you get the guy out, that's one advantage you have. You always have to have that if you want to compete with, guys like this.
Yeah, great. So I want to, one thing that's difficult is overcoming doubt. And right now, there's this, there's seniors in high school, and Manav and I had this conversation when this thing first came about, that there are seniors in high school, you guys all as pros right now, where your dream looks like it's disappearing. And Manav was a senior in high school and didn't get his scholarship offer until the end of March because he had a great tournament his senior year at the end of March. Now, take Manav and put him in 2020, he doesn't have a scholarship now because he didn't get to play in that tournament because it was canceled, right? And now he's facing the same scenario again because he's on the cusp right now of actual, he's gone through the PGA Canada, PGA South America. He's gone up to do a couple qualifier events, all of that. And now it's like, well, now what? I mean, everything's canceled. I mean, I still got to work out. I still got to play. And golf is it's minute. Everything about golf is so little things here and there, here and there, here and there. And he'll tell you, I mean, if anyone's ever watched Manav, seen Manav, or had the pleasure of playing with Manav, it's incredible to be around. It's ridiculous to watch him in action. And some of you will be able to watch him on TV someday and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. And you'll be like, I've worked out next to that guy, or I've been on the phone call with that guy. And so Manav, I want to talk to you about that because this is not, with your injury to your hand, this is probably the third or fourth time in your career where you've looked at this thing and gone, oh my gosh, what is about to happen? And somehow, some way, you've always fought your way through that and been extremely successful. So I'd like to talk to you about that and have you touch base on how do you deal with that doubt? How do you deal with the idea that the dream might be gone and you don't know what's going to happen, but yet you persevere? And if you could touch on that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing golf has taught me is it's always one shot at a time, one shot in front of the other. And you can't worry about what's going to happen on hole 12 when you're on hole 1. You got to just look at what you're dealt with at the time and try to do your best in that given moment and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. So I think, in these times, like, the future's uncertain, so you can't really worry about the end goal. But I think everyone can stay motivated and have that belief in themselves, and then just try to pick at little things that they can do daily to keep their mind present-minded and never lose faith. Like, eventually this whole thing's going to blow over. Everyone's going to get back to what they're doing. The world's going to go back to, the way it is. And the people that come out of it on top are going to be the guys that, worked on things that they otherwise wouldn't. So for me right now, I'm doing a lot of breathing exercises. I'm doing a lot of visualization, a lot of just hardcore reps, not even for that long, but I know that the hardcore reps are what going to carry over and seep into my game when it's July, August, whenever we come out of this thing. But the key for me is to just keep it present-minded and to worry about what I could do right now. Every single sport, you can always get better at technique. And we're blessed to live in a time where we have technology everywhere. We have iPhones, we have apps. We can all look at our technique, pick out what we need to get better at. Because Ryan says this a lot. When you come out of this, talent isn't going to win. So whoever comes out of this, with better technique, better breathing, a better mindset of, okay, I'm going to play this one shot at a time, one pitch at a time, one throw at a time. Logan's good at this. He told me he throws a pick, doesn't worry about it, goes back out, and he has the same confidence to go out and make that hard throw over and over again. And that's a skill I think we all wish we had when we were in high school, but we were a little immature to look at things like, the future doesn't really matter, and all that matters is what you can control right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Is when you start looking at this thing from a, you know, step-by-step perspective, and what can you control, what can you do, so on and so forth. I mean, it's so clutch to hear somebody say that, you know, you're a golfer, and, you know, force production and touch and all those things are so important, but you're sitting here talking about breathing, you know, and learning how to control the little things. I mean, that's something that if you would have told me that in high school, I'd have been like, wait, what, breathing? What do you mean breathing? Well, don't you just normally do that? I mean, how's that a thing, right? You know, or if you mess up, and just like you said with Logan, I mean, Logan's the master at this of, you know, if something happens, he's like, yeah, well, whatever, you know, it happens, you know, because let's not forget that when we're playing, you know, like they say, one of the hardest things to do in baseball is to hit a major league fastball. It's not hitting the fastball, it's putting it into play. And the reason it's so hard to put it into play is because you got a whole bunch of professionals out there stopping you from getting on base. That's really hard, you know, and that's the thing, is like when you're a professional quarterback or even a high school quarterback and you're on the varsity level and you throw a pick, well, there's a varsity level DB linebacker out there trying to stop you. So you can't, that's their job, right? So it's not going to be 100% success rate all the time. And those
Anthony, we say it all the time. Hey, they get paid too. They get paid
right,
too.
right, absolutely, right. So that's the thing that we've got to think about, that, you know, even in golf, if you don't hit the perfect shot and the guy that is within 2 strokes of you does, and now you guys are either even or within 1, he's trying to do the same thing, or she is trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. So we can't beat ourselves up, and we can't allow the doubt to set in simply because we didn't do it perfect on that time. Because if you keep confident, if you keep doing what you're doing, then you will stay consistent. And then that's intimidating. One of the most intimidating things in sports is confidence, and watching someone not show how tired they are and not show doubt. That is the most intimidating things in sports, is looking across the line or looking next to you and going, oh, they're ready. How are they not tired? Of course they're tired. They're just not showing it. Of course they're frustrated. They just dropped the ball, or they just let a home run go over their head, but they're not going to show it. That's scary. That is a scary thing, because when stress happens, that's when all this intimidation stuff starts happening, and then we get nerves. And we need to understand that what are nerves? And this is something that you can practice, that nerves are simply adrenaline and dopamine entering into the bloodstream. And the reason we get nervous is because it's an unfamiliar feeling, because we don't live 2,000 years ago where we had to go out and hunt for all of our food and we didn't know blah, 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 blah. We don't face that every single day. So when nerves happen, that's just adrenaline. What we should, when we feel the nerves, this is where we go back to mindset and self-talk. We've got to get excited when that happens. The great ones, those are the ones that when they feel it, they go, oh yeah, it's game time now, let's go, right? And that's what it comes down to. The people that make it, the people that make the varsity team, the people that make it to college, the people that make it to the pros, the people that get the promotions, that become the boss, those are the ones that understand that, and that they feed into it, and they love it, and they live on it. And those are the things that can make you successful when we start going into the self-talk and the mindset. And so from all that, I want to move over to Anthony, because, you know, you talk about somebody coming from Bakersfield. Well, in the sports world, people are looking at you and go, oh, well, you're from Bakersfield. Oh, you went to West High, right? And those were the things that were fighting against you. Then you get an opportunity to go to Fresno State, and you become an All-American. And it's like, well, dang. Okay, well, he went from Bakersfield West High to an All-American at a Division I football school to, okay, now you get an opportunity with the Cardinals. You end up starting for them. Then you go to Minnesota and you start for them. I mean, your career has always been about preparation, both physically and mentally. And you have proven over and over and over again that with the right preparation, anything can happen. And you've been playing now for a pretty long time, and I'll let you talk about that. But, you know, especially as a DB, like, you're not supposed to stay this fast. You're not supposed to stay this explosive at your age. And you've done it, and you've prepared for it, and you've done the things that needed to happen off the field and on the field. And that's what I want you to touch base on, about what are you doing mentally and physically to make sure that you stay ready?
For me, man, it's always been about kind of establishing a routine, right? Whether it be off season or there's no off season or anything like that, if I wasn't under contract or whatever, I prepared the same way. Like if I was going to have a game in the next coming month or so. So for me, like times like right now when things are kind of unsure, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of like, I don't have A3 to go to. I've always like been in my mind that like you said, like intimidation is like, or being confident is like the most intimidating thing. And I've always remained confident in my abilities, whatever I'm doing. I never try to focus on doubt. And I think that's what helps me as a DB, because you got to have like a short memory. You know, people are going to catch balls, like Logan said, they get paid too. So, you know, they catch a ball, score a touchdown. For me, it's, you know, it's going to happen. The next play, I'm going to go to the line. I'm going to be pressed again, the same guy. And, you know, for me, 80% of the time, I feel like I can win, if not more. So as long as you stay confident and you do the same things, like I said, like I've been doing the same things, whether it's the off season or not. Like now I can't go to the fields, go to A3, but try to establish a routine, get up every day at the same time, work out at the same time. So it kind of feels like I'm in season because I'm doing those same things that I would do in season at those times. And, you know, when I have that free time, then like to stay motivated, I watch my own highlights, you know, stuff. I go back and see things that I've done, and, you know, it re-sparks the confidence in me. And I just, you know, it's very easy for me to just be like, I'm still the same person, right? I haven't changed. If I was successful one time, I can be successful again. So it's
Right.
once you do the right things and you become successful. It's just about remaining consistent. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to do too little. You don't want to overdo it, you know? But for me, like I said, I've always taken advantage of the time that I had and listened to all the coaches that I've had. Every coach that I've had has always said something different. And I've never argued with a coach or anything like that. I've always questioned why. And when I found out the why, it makes it easier for me to understand why I'm doing it. And then I do the things more, right? I start to focus on the things myself, do those things at home, whether it's, you know, like Ryan said, playing the plays in my mind, taking mental reps, things like that. It makes it easy to stay confident. And if you're confident, you can win in any situation, especially if you're a competitor like these guys are. You know, I'm super competitive. I don't care if it's, you know, jacks and Uno or running or anything like that. Like I want to win, you know, I don't like losing. So when it comes to things like that, it's easy for me, you know, it's easy for me to say that. I've always been like that. Coming from Bakersfield, you know, it's not the greatest place to come out of. It's hard to get, for me, it was hard to get recruited, you know, back at that time. But yeah, like I said, I remained confident. I was out there, and I think that's what helped me is that, I mean, I know Logan will see me out there, and I stare at the quarterback. You know, I dare him to throw over there. I'm like, I'm here. You see me, I'm going to be pressed. What are you going to do? It's going to be convert fade. I'm going to run. You know, you know, we're all on the same page. So it's like, as long as I can remain confident and I you know, keep a routine and try to establish something like that, then, you know, these times don't really, you know, it affects me in a certain way, but as long as I'm doing the same things, that I'm confident I can, you know, I stay in shape and do the things that I've done before at a high level for a long time. And I guess that's why I've been playing for 10 years, because I've just been doing the same things over and over and over and over. And, you know, just haven't quit yet.
Right. And that's, I mean, one thing I want to add about Ant is, you know, he's also, what he's not saying is something that he does intrinsically that I don't think he realizes he does, that he constantly, and I think the other guys here on the panel, and all of you actually are like this, it's not just Anthony, but, you know, one thing that we need to press on for people to understand is all of you, regardless of your success and the things that you've accomplished in your career, you have always, since the day I met you, always come in and you're asking questions of what else can I do? What can I do to get better? What can I do to move better? What, you know, I mean, every single one of you does this, and Anthony's done it a lot of, he's saying, and they're all saying that, you know, they're staying motivated, they're staying on schedule, they're doing these things. But let's not forget that regardless of how successful they've been, the levels that they've achieved, they're always constantly learning. And that's a thing that has to be said, something that has to be touched on. that regardless of what level you're at, it doesn't matter if you're a Hall of Famer, you always have to have that, I want to know more, because there's always more to know regardless. Like I've been a coach now, gosh, almost 20 years, and I'm still reading new research, and I'm still talking to other coaches, and I'm still calling people that I've trained with in the past and just talk to them and pick their brains. And if I have an idea, I'll run it by somebody. I mean, you're never alone in this. And again, this is why we want to tap into this whole A3 Inner Circle thing and create its own membership of, of an opportunity for you to just be able to have this round table of pros, of people that care and that have been there. And we're going to continue to touch on that. We'll send it out in email and all that about how to join, how to be a part of it. And it also goes into the training, like everyone has said, that we can't be an A3 right now, and it's terrible. And going into A3, I was talking to my wife last week. I almost went into like an hour of depression, because here we have all this hard work, and I've watched all these success stories happen. And for those of you that know me, know I'm there 15 hours a day, and it's my second home, and we can't be there right now, and we can't hit it hard. And that's really where this idea came from of, okay, back up. Everybody's in this scenario. Everybody has built dreams, and everybody's not able to pursue them the way they wanted to pursue them, the way they planned on pursuing them. So what are we going to do to change that perspective, to change that conversation, so that we can stay prepared, so that we can keep the dream going? And that's a really important thing. And that's why we've all been working really hard on the idea of training and doing the online training and doing those things, because you can still do stuff from home. And if you're somebody who's interested in learning how to swing a baseball bat better, throw a pitch, or swing a golf club, or throw a ball, catch a ball, have better footwork, we're here to help. And we have those memberships and those programs to help you do that. And those are things that are really, really important. We'll provide more information on that, but we want to encourage you to continue the work, and we're here to help. Let's make this work, and let's create those bonds, and let's create those memberships of ways to help you. Because again, we've got to get to a point where we're all working, we're all doing the commonality thing of success. And that's a really important factor. We have about 5 to 10 minutes left, because we did start a little late, and there was one question that was asked so far. If you have a question and you're on here, the chat button, if you scroll onto your screen, there's a chat button at the bottom. If you have a question for any of us, please hit the chat button. We'll be able to see it, and I'll kind of lead that conversation. So if you have a question for anybody, please go ahead and hit that. Let's keep that going. Like Art just put something up there. Great job, Art. So please open up that chat button, and if you have questions, please ask. The first one was, and I'll let you guys kind of pepper this one. What was something that you didn't have coming up that you wish you would have had, or something that you wish you would have known? Or on the flip side, what's something that a coach told you, and I'll start, something that a coach told you that has stayed with you forever? So I've got both of those. For me, being a wide receiver, sprinter, decathlete, what was really, really important was understanding the mechanics. And I was always told, power, 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 power. And, focus on it. And that's the way I got injured. I mean, I pulled my hamstring. I can go down the list. And so, one thing that I learned late in my career was learning to absorb force and having the proper mechanic of the way I hit the ground, not just the way I'm producing, but the way my foot hits the ground when I go in. And that was something I learned late in my career, that if I would have known that when I was 16 years old, oh my goodness gracious, like, maybe I would have run a 10.5 in high school instead of a 10.8. I mean, who knows, And then something that has always stuck with me, and it's actually, I feel better now at 41 than I did when I was training. And I had a coach tell me one time in college that my hamstring was bothering me. And he goes, Ryan, how bad is your hamstring? And I said, it hurts, but I'll be fine. He goes, so you'll be fine, huh? I said, yeah, I'll be fine. He goes, okay, well, and I'll just use today's date. Well, it's April 24th. So if your hamstring's okay, you can keep pushing. You're going to go through this workout at full speed and you're going to pull your hamstring. So you can remember April 24th for the next 6 weeks as you sit on your butt and you watch your teammates go to meets and you watch everybody else compete and you're going to digress. Or we can be intelligent. You can back off today. We'll do some supplemental stuff instead of hammering your hamstring on this sprint workout we're about to do. And today will be just another day and you can come back to training tomorrow or the next day and be perfectly fine and you'll be able to compete this weekend. And that is something that has always stuck with me when it comes to training. And one of the reasons that I've built the workouts the way we do them is to keep people healthy and to keep people moving and progressing. And it was always something that really, that changed my career after I learned that. That mentality of going through training that way, that just like Art was saying, like in this time, go into the kitchen and do footwork on the tiles. That instead of being on the field, well, it's the same thing. Instead of going through a massive interval workout, I just got my abs handed to me, like as if my abs were going to rip out of my body and I wasn't going to be able to walk or laugh for 5 days because they got hit so hard because I wasn't able to use my hamstring. Same thing applies here, that there's always a way to train. And just because it's not what's absolutely scheduled for that day, that's okay. And those are the things that we want to take with us. So fellas, if you guys want to chime in on that.
Yeah, I could go first if that's all right with you guys. Yeah, I funneling down all the great things that I've heard. I was blessed growing up to have a coach for a dad, and he didn't necessarily coach my teams all the time, but he coached me in life. And one of the things that this actual term, Anthony will be able to touch on this, but I never really heard it called anything, but it's actually called lonely work, and that was kind of our theme last year on the Eskimos, and Anthony could attest to that. But when our coach was talking about lonely work, it's funny because that's what my dad's been telling me my whole life. You don't just go play basketball because your parents got you a trainer that's going to stand there and rebound for you. You can go work on free throws by yourself in a park for hours and hours and hours until you can master your free throw routine. You can go do a lot of things with a tee and a bucket of baseballs and running around picking up stuff into a net. You can throw into a matches. You can do these things. And that's called mastering the lonely work. And unless you're willing or motivated or excited to master lonely work, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have a trainer. You don't need to have a team to always go to and go to practice. Because if you're only doing those things, you're not going to make it, because it's not enough. You're working on scheme. Football, for any of you guys that are football players, how much time at practice do you actually spend during your season on fundamentals? Typically, you're learning plays. You're mastering, rotations on a defense. You're mastering route concepts on offense. It's very little time. And I'm sure in baseball, with 100 million games that you guys play, you're not sitting around working on your own technique a lot during the season, right? So it's a lot of lonely work. And unless you master that lonely work when you're little, you're not going to get it when you grow up. My dad, real quick, he bought me a football when I was probably 7th to 8th grade that was actually cut in half. And it was sewn on this area, and it was made to the correct proportions as if it was a full football. And it was made to throw against a wall. And so you can actually find them now on eBay if there's anybody watching that's interested in things like that. But I would go down to the elementary school, the ball wall, and literally just throw this thing against the wall and see how my rotation is going, that's lonely work. It's literally just trying to, work on your footwork, work on things alone. And I think that's the biggest thing that really that kids need to, kind of learn and master. Yeah.
Great point, Logan. Great point.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Logan said. I think for me, there's a couple things that always stand out. I think the first one is knowing who you want to be. Early age, knowing, okay, I want to be good. I want to be great. I want to be All-American. Where do I want to be? That'll kind of give you an idea of how much work. And I wish I had someone to tell me more of the details of what each layer of that is, because it's not a magic workout. It's not one thing you do. It's small, significant changes happen because of small, minute things. You're doing small things all the time. Those things are always going to hold you accountable. You're not going to be as good as you always think. I had a AA coach tell me this, and this has always stuck with me. He says, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
Your worst days, you're never that bad to make you like go down too much. And when you're up, you can't be too up. So like the valleys and everything, you got to stay here. You got to stay here, and you got to be consistent, because I know you guys play a lot of games. We play a lot of games, and every day is a different experience, but you have a job to do each day.
Yep. We got about 5 minutes. Art, Anthony, Manav, we'll hop in on this.
I can piggyback off of what you guys said. Wasn't so much a coach for me, but a player. When I got to Arizona, it was Larry Fitzgerald for me. You know, I was one of the big name receiver that the first time I saw him, and you know, he came to me and told me it's not about your talent no more. You know, everybody's talented now. It's about, you know, your legacy, how you want to be remembered, how hard you work. And I can tell you right now, Larry's not the fastest guy. He's not the most agile, but he has great hands, and his work ethic was, you know, ridiculous. The man ran to the end zone after every single catch in practice. He would catch a slant, take it all the way to the end zone. Didn't matter if it was a hitch, everybody rallied around. He would still run all the way to the end zone and come all the way back. And for me, going against him every single day, he would tell me, you know, nobody cares, you know, what you've done before this. It's about what you do now. What have you done for me lately? How consistent are you? And for me, it was all about, you know, that, and learning from somebody that's been there, like you said, and that has done it. And I know if you guys are watching now, Larry's probably going to be a Hall of Famer and all this stuff. And the guy is, you know, it's crazy to witness things like that. And when you see things like that, people working hard, working diligently, constantly, for me, it's a motivator in myself, because, you know, what do you want to be? How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be that person? Do you want to be great? Do you want to be a Hall of Fame? You know, like you said, talent's not it can't take you forever. You have to have hard work. And for me, that's been my biggest thing, is that, like, I know I've always been talented, right? Like, it's God-given talent, whatever it is. But in order for me to separate myself, like, I was in high school, I was pretty good, but I was right on par with everybody else. I didn't start to separate myself until I got to college. Things became more serious, and I looked forward to the hard work. Like, I loved 6 a.m.s. I loved getting up. Everybody hated it, and I thought it was I had a great time, you know, because the guys that hated it motivated me to talk mess to the guys that hated it. So I would be there, up early, you know, trying to motivate people, making it a joke or whatever. But in all seriousness, that's what I lived for, was working hard, trying to get to that next level. And once you get to that level, everybody's good. So you got to separate yourself. You got to remain consistent in whatever you're doing and all the hard work. And, you know, people are only going to care as much as you do. So if you want to do it, you know, you got to put all the hard work in.
Right. And that's a great point.
Yep.
That I want to touch on too, is, you know, when we go back to the idea of, Art said it first, about being creative. And, you know, a lot of times it's not going to be a coach. It could be a teammate. It could be a sibling. It could be a parent. It could be an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent that, for whatever reason, connects with you. Mine was my grandmother, that just connects with you and gives you that intrinsic motivation and shows you what the hard work looks like. And most of you guys here, and maybe I'm the only one because I'm older, but Michael Jordan was what Kobe is to you guys, was Michael Jordan to me. And what Steph Curry is to some of you guys is Michael Jordan to me. And what most people don't know is that Michael Jordan, when you talk to him, yeah, he's had a lot of great coaches. Phil Jackson, obviously, you know, when you go back to his college coaches, but he talks a lot about his older brother. And you've probably never heard of his older brother. You probably don't even know that he was one of 5 siblings. But the whole point of it was, he used to battle day in and day out with his older brother, and his older brother was better than him. But it was that intrinsic motivation of what his brother gave to him to show him what it took to work hard that made Michael Jordan, not Mike, Michael Jordan. And that's who we know him as now. But we don't know about his older brother, Larry. But that is the person that made Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan. And sometimes it's not going to be a coach. It's going to be someone else. It could be a really good friend from everybody else. Anyway.
I want to add something that you guys already covered. You know, work ethic, obviously. You got to have talent. You got to have work ethic. You got to grind. You got to want it. But something we all probably didn't know as best as we could is the whole recruiting process.
Yeah.
And how it worked. I know there's a lot of good young athletes at A3, and a lot of kids are going to have opportunities to play college sports. And I think if they just reached out to Ryan, or, you know, anyone who knows anything about it, that'll save them a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and a lot of, you know, things that they don't need to be going through. So.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe we'll make that the next conversation of our roundtable.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think something for me was just they talk about mentality. I didn't know too much. I put it in the chat too, but you know, growing up, you play the game. You know, you're talented. Like AJ said, you have the talent. You know, you've always been, you know, someone who was at the top of the game. And you play it just to play. You know, you play it for fun. But then once you get to college, once you get professional, it's serious. And something you learn while you're at those levels is mentality. You know, mental toughness, going in day out with direction, with focus. And I feel like if somebody would have told me that at a younger age, just my mentality, my mental toughness, and how important, you know, the way you think. You and I have talked about it many times, Ryan. Just you know, changing words, the way you think, the way you say things to yourself, self-talk. If someone would have taught me about those things a little bit earlier, I feel like I would have been at a higher level a lot faster. You know, and not just that, but just knowing who you are as a player. Kind of something that Justin talked about. You know, not if you're a big guy, you know, knowing what your strengths and your weaknesses are. If you're a small guy, same thing, you know, your strengths and weaknesses. Baseball wise, if you're a little guy, most of the times you're not going to be trying to hit home runs, you know, and a lot of people, you know, try to hit home runs, and I've seen it. I played with a guy who had all five. He hit all the tools. He was fast. He had everything. I mean, the path was given to him, but he, instead of using his tools that God gave him to do for his game, you know, knowing his game, he tried to do what I do, and that's hit home runs, you know, when all he had to do was just literally, if he would have bunted the ball twice a game, he'd be in the big leagues right now. And he played for the Cardinals, and it was one of the most frustrating things. I'm like, bro, like, you're a fast guy. You're probably the fastest guy in baseball right now. And you don't bunt. You don't try to utilize your skills, your skill set. So it's knowing who you are as a player that can take you to the next level tenfold. People may know Billy Hamilton right now. He's in the big leagues playing. My buddy is faster than Billy Hamilton. And Billy Hamilton, what did he do? He just bunted the ball. He accepted his role as a player. He knew his strengths, and he played to those things. So knowing who you are as an athlete is super huge, is super important, and it's something that can save you, you know, a lot of stress going forward is trying to find your identity, you know. And then the last thing I want to say is just your reason why. All of us in this call, you know, even if you're not a professional athlete, you have a reason why, and that reason why is going to motivate you and push you whenever you don't want to get up and do something. It's going to push you whenever you're in those dark times, you know, those dark days. Whenever you're kind of doubting yourself, you know, it's going to get you back up. Having that reason why and knowing why you're doing this and who you're doing it for. I know AJ, you know, Anthony, he has his children now. He has kids, you know, he's trying to keep a roof over their head, you know, food on their table. You know, Logan has, you know, has one on the way, you know, and then, you know, now we got Justin just got a new house, new wife, you know, me, Manav, same thing, you know, he's everybody has their own reasons why, and that reason why is what drives us and what drive you whenever to get out of those times whenever you're in need, you know, in need of an extra push.
All right, we're sticking with the golden doodle for right now, just FYI, but I'd say that's enough of our time for right now. I think my wife's on the call, so I was making sure that she didn't tell you something she didn't tell me yet.
Yeah. I had to throw that in there, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing. Rookie's like, yeah, tell him, Art, tell him. I was like,
I think, you know, one thing that, you know, kind of goes back to, you know, putting it all together as we kind of get this thing wrapped up here is, you know, when we start talking about, you know, anxiety of what's expected of us, even from a recruiting standpoint or a performance standpoint, to understanding our role and then knowing the why. So I think all of that can be played into one answer. If you have a better understanding of your tools and who you are as a person and as an athlete, and whether that goes for your professional career, and I'm talking sports or outside of sports, if we're talking about our academic career, or whatever that might be, your role as a husband, as a wife, as an aunt or an uncle or a brother or a sister or a friend, you know, what it comes down to is if you know who you are then a lot of other things kind of disappear. Anxiety can go away because we're not questioning everything that we're trying to do. Trying to fit ourselves into success, like Art was talking about. If that guy would have just watched the movie Major League, to make it a little comical, and understood, just put the ground on the ball and run, use your tools, right? And we all have tools that can make us extremely successful. The problem is, and why we end up, some of us, not being successful, and we've all experienced failure, is when we've tried to go outside of ourselves and we've tried to be somebody else, right? When we understand who we are, anxiety goes away, doubt goes away. And when we start understanding who we are, who we want to be, the why is better defined. And that's a really important thing that I'd like to close with, that defining the why comes from you knowing what you want and who you are, and then getting there. It's the whole working backwards scenario here of knowing who you are first, then you can define the why. And that's really important to understand. So with that, I think I'm gonna close this thing down. I want to say thank you to everybody being on this call and giving us an opportunity to get together and talk and share what we have. And fellas, thank you for taking the time, for being with us and giving us that insight. I mean, it's just priceless. It really is. I mean, it's absolutely priceless. Please be paying attention to your emails, the things that you've signed up with, because we're going to be sending out information about signing up for this inner circle. Any training, any professional development that you're looking for, we'll be putting all that in there and letting you know what steps are next. So fellas, again, thank you. Everybody, thank you for giving us this opportunity to discuss these things, and looking forward to the next time.